How to use your challenges to clear limiting beliefs and clear blocks. You'll find the answer to this today. I'm Dr. Katja Rusanen, spiritual counselor and best-selling author, and today I'm joined by Dr. Zoë Lumiere, who is a healer, self-healing coach, and the founder of Allowing.Love. She has helped thousands of people across the world to reconnect with their hearts, heal childhood wounds, and meet their grief and trauma with compassion. One breath, one feeling, and one miracle at a time. I'm super excited to have you here today, Dr. Zoë, and get your wisdom to support us on our journey. So, welcome.
Thank you so much, Katja.
And today we'll be hearing a little bit more about your signature method called Feeling for Healing
Yep.
as a path for inner child healing and clearing those limiting beliefs and all the programming that we might have in our mind. So I think without further ado, I just want to give this stage to you so we can expand and heal and grow. So take it
Amazing.
away, Zoe.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for that a very kind and very loving welcome. Hello, everyone watching this. I have shared about this process so many times, and I have used slides and the presentation model many times, and that's a beautiful way. I allow the spirit, I allow the spontaneous like wisdom, that intelligence truly to flow through best when I'm just present with you all. So I am going to be speaking from the heart, but guiding you through these 4 steps that sound so cheesy to me to say I downloaded them, but I truly did through my own process of profound grief, of really starting to unpack my mum's death that happened when I was 14. And I truly turned my back on that. I didn't have the support and the skills that I needed. So I didn't address that. I actually instead dove into an eating disorder, drug addiction, and other dysfunctional patterns for 2 decades before I started to do my healing work. And so as I did start to dive into this healing work, these 4 steps just became crystal clear to me. And I think what's most challenging for a lot of people with them is how incredibly simple they are. I think that they're even so simple that perhaps they get overlooked for the actual power that they hold. So we'll see how I dive into them today. I want to start by just really anchoring what I believe is just the profound bottom line of healing, because when we talk about spiritual healing, emotional healing, physiological healing, when we talk about healing, we can mean a whole lot of different things, and we're integrated beings. So they're all related, right? Whether or not we're talking about healing our back versus healing our emotional state, really, we are just one integrated being. So we are, in my experience, always talking about the same thing. And so words are going to fail, right? It's such a beautiful, amorphous thing to be talking about. Wow, how do we heal and release those ways that we would in some way be in dis-ease, be in a level of contraction, in some way being in a conscious state of fighting our true inner nature, right? That is what I believe dis-ease is. We are the light. We are the love. We are here like a plant to grow, right? Like what we do inevitably and naturally is we expand, we grow, we have infinite energy, we are producers. Like we have this life force that just continues to grow and expand. And I believe, and I've observed with clients now for over a decade, we all have moments in our childhood where when we put out our light, when we show up in the bigness, in the beauty of who we are, that gets slapped down. Or in some way we aren't met by, wow, yeah, I love you. I believe in you. Yes, I'm with you. but rather perhaps maybe that hurts. Maybe we put out our love or our beliefs or what we want, our needs, our feelings out there. And when we're not met in a particular way, we start to close down. We do what's very inevitable, but we start to create a level of coping mechanism. We start to create a level of protection, which basically is like, that hurt. I don't want that to happen again. So I'm not going to show up as fully next time. Maybe I'm going to start to play a little small. Maybe I'm going to protect myself. And so we do lock particular judgments, particular rules in our consciousness that we could then call limiting beliefs, limiting patterns, the programming of our conditioned unconscious mind. So, oh, wow, I love to use lots of words. Back to the heart of all of this, which the bottom line for healing for me is that it is loving applied to the places that hurt that truly heals. And I'm not going to get into this today, even though I can geek out on this for a long time. There is a lot of research that's coming out right now through neurobiology, relational neuroscience, that actually can prove this, that healing is the application of loving to the places that hurt. And we now know from neuroimaging, we actually have like neuroimaging research studies that can prove that if we have the courage to be connected with where it hurts, and this obviously we're talking about mostly on an emotional level, but this also works for a physiological level. If we are aware of some kind of pain in our body, and that can be like a sore back where we don't think we have any emotion, but where there is some level of physiological experience. And this also applies to the emotions, right? When our heart hurts, when we feel shame in our stomach, when it's any level of emotional pain or emotional discomfort, if we have the courage to feel it all the way into that physiological experience, not just be aware of it like, oh yeah, I'm sad, or oh yeah, I'm missing the guy that left me, or whatever it is, not just being aware of it in our head, but really having the courage to be embodied, to feel it, to what I think we could all experience as truly surrendering to it, really allowing that pain fully into our physiological being, so that our heart does ache, or maybe our throat all of a sudden just has those spikes, that jagged feeling in it. If we have that physiological experience, and in the same time we apply love, we receive an experience of loving compassion, we do know that our neural pathways actually rewire from our activity being processed by the amygdala, our primitive brain, back to being processed through our prefrontal cortex. And our neural pathways actually go from what is considered more of a fight-flight reaction, in that they're disorganized, they're chaotic, through to health, through to greater harmony. So I'll start there and then dive into the 4 steps. One of the big things that I notice people holding back from their next level of evolution, their next level of healing or clearing, is an inability to really just show up for the everyday emotional imbalance. And so even when I'm talking about when, 2 decades later, when I finally started to feel and heal the profound negative impact, the profound disease in my body based on not grieving and dealing with my mum's death, it was my everyday challenges that actually became the invitations for me to feel this negative experience in my body and then just bring in loving and clear that. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit, and then I will walk you through it in a way that you will be able to pick up these 4 steps and do them predictably. And I guess at the front of this, I will tell you the acronym. I love acronyms. I have created acronyms for so many parts of my practice and my work. And this one is FEEL. So I do call this the 4 steps of feeling for healing. And the 4 steps simply are: number 1, to feel. I don't have the time to go into this too much, but often when we say feel, I'd say 95% of the planet don't actually know or understand what that is. We're not meaning to think about it in our head. It's a deeply embodied experience. And so we do use a few different questions to really make sure we're not in our head about this experience. We are in our body, and I'll go through those. But so the first step is just feel, be in our body, be in the present moment regarding the situation. The second is embrace. Most of our emotional challenge and most of our growth doesn't happen because we're actually in resistance to it. Most feelings and shitty moments actually metaphysically move through very quickly, except when we are sad or maybe we feel jealous or whatever that is. Usually what we're aware of is resisting feeling that feeling rather than actually just feeling, surrendering, throwing our arms up and actually feeling it. So the second step is to embrace, and it's a conscious way that we can really just accept everything that's going on, and we can find parts of our consciousness that are in resistance. It's like, yeah, maybe I'm aware of that pain in my heart, but I am still aware of a part of me that's kind of keeping it at arm's length. I don't really want to fully feel it, and we all have lots of reasons why we don't really want to let go and completely feel, but embrace is really just a beautiful step for accepting and clearing any resistance in different levels of our consciousness. The third is to express our feelings, and this can be done in so many different ways. The most practical and, for me, the biggest bang for our buck for most people is simply just to write our feelings, just to give our feelings a voice. So I have a self-healing book that I take with me almost wherever I go, and it's just my safe place where I'm able to, if anything comes up, I'm able to give my feelings a voice and truly allow that energy to be cleared and released. If you're a singer, if you're a dancer, if you are creative, I wouldn't be surprised if that express your feelings couldn't be done a different way. But for the purpose of today, and the most practical way is to write out our feelings. And then the fourth is to love our feelings. And just as when a mother is given a baby, there isn't a handbook on how to love your child, right? Like you put that baby, on a mother's chest, and that love flows, right? Like that love is who we are. And so there are so many different ways that when our hurt feelings are in our energy field, we can learn to love them. And there are so many different ways that we can do that. So I guess I'm putting the amorphous reference point on the table first, in that as much as any guide is useful, I would encourage everyone to use any guide as a springboard into your own spiritual authority. And where this really comes into play for this particular practice or guide is really in that final step, where as many billion people as there are on the planet, there is going to be that many ways to really bring in the loving that these parts of you need. So I'll try and put a little bit more flesh and bones on that. And there are quite a few deeper steps in the step 4. So hopefully we'll get time to unpack as much as we can. I love to start with personal experiences just because it helps me stay clear and in my responsibility, and then you get to pick this up and truly take responsibility for your life and try it on as works for you. But I did start to unpack this process when finally, after 2 decades of mass dysfunction, and it was actually my eating disorder that had gotten so bad that I was like, I need to check myself into rehab, or I need to do some intense therapy because I'm not okay. So it was at that time I had actually just enrolled in a Master's of Spiritual Psychology, which dove us into full weekends of very deep healing work. And so for the first time in my life, I will say, So prior to this, I had been traveling with my spiritual teacher. I actually worked for my spiritual teacher, John Roger, for 10 years before this. And I'm so grateful that I already had a very strong experience of what the spirit was. And I will be forever grateful to that. And I believe that some of us come in with particular emotional karma that can't always be shifted just by mentally or spiritually lifting into clear, positive realms of light. I remember talking to my spiritual teacher many times about my bulimia, and he actually, what I would experience as took it off me. And I would have moments where I didn't have it. But for me, I always brought it back somehow. What I came to experience in that whole process was that we are here to be a co-creator. So we are here to learn how we have created our life. And while I do believe, I've been to many different practitioners that have helped me with so many different things in my life, I don't want to have to feel and cry about stuff if I don't need to, right? I'd rather go, hey, I've got this challenge. This hurts. Take it off me. Like, if that can happen in certain ways, go do that. 100%. But for me, I really experienced that there are certain gifts that we are to come in inside of ourselves. And I was here to come into my own self-healing gifts. So this particular karma, I couldn't lift by just having someone take it from me. I had to really understand how I created it. And in doing so, really understand how healing worked and how I could stop creating other disease, other dysfunction in my life. So I was in the throes of bulimia. And I will say it's probably pertinent to say that I started to turn to food when my mum passed as a way to deal with these feelings that I just didn't know what to do with. It was too pain. It was too confusing. It was too debilitating to my sense of self to be left in a world without a parent. And so food was my source of loving. So that continued for 2 decades off and on, but it got really bad. And so as I went and started to feel my feelings, really learn how to get in my body and be aware of what was going on, funnily enough, the biggest challenges in my world at that time was that I had this huge crush on someone that I was working with, and they did not love me back. Looking back on it, it's all very comical to me now, but when my mum died, I was left with a stepfather who I could take to prison a few times over, wasn't pretty dysfunctional, definitely created a lot of juicy opportunities for healing and clearing. But over those 2 decades, I was continually falling in love with men that actually were the same personality type as my stepdad. So it's only in retrospect that I can see it all so incredibly clearly. While I was in it, that never entered my mind. But person after person, I would fall in love with very unavailable men that had a kind of a same personality profile. And they were very much like my stepdad, who I tried so hard to be loved and be validated and be seen after my mum passed, but I never got that, right? And so there was this continued pattern in me, just trying to get my love from outside, trying to be seen, trying to be seen and loved and validated, try to know that I was going to be okay, I was going to be taken care of, and compounded also with a part of me that had just lost my mum and wanted to be seen and still connected and loved by her. So as I look back over my life, I can just see me trying to get my love from these different men and just truly being lost in this mental obsession. Like, talk about unrequited love. Oh my Lord. I didn't have actually a boyfriend until I met my husband. And this was the year after I started to do this work. I actually never had a boyfriend. I never saw a guy more than once, because I was just such in this mental obsession, this unrequited love pattern. And so this is what was going on at the time with the bulimia. And what happened was instead of, so I became very curious about, okay, so if my feelings are actually a beautiful opportunity for me to release any unconscious blocks, if my emotional karma is stored in a way that if I just allow myself to feel them, let them, love them, and let them go, that all of my dysfunction will start to clear itself out. I really, well, number one, I would tell you is that I didn't believe that, but I wanted to, so I wanted to really put it to the test. So what happened is at this period of my life, so I had this huge crush on this guy that I worked with, and almost every day at the end of the day, I would just be in tears. I would be working so hard to, he was also my boss. So that was the tough thing, in that I wouldn't be seen, I wouldn't be validated. I feel like I was working so hard and being such a good girl, and I just was continually criticized, continually put down. And on top of that, I wasn't getting the love back that I wanted. Not that I ever told him that I was, an absolute mess. So when these feelings would come up, and mostly it was at the end of the day, I would just feel so devastated, or I would just, feel really unseen and unvalidated, and I would just start to let myself cry. I had stopped myself from that process for probably about 4 years prior to that, because it was very easy to blame him and to get stuck in a pattern of, he's a dickhead, he's being mean, and I had a whole community around me that was like, yeah, he treats you so terribly, right? So I actually held myself back from my healing by blame. Whenever we find ourselves in blame in any way, it's just a wonderful way that we're trying to protect ourselves from actually not feeling how we feel about a particular situation. And so blame is just always profoundly holding us back from the clearing and from the healing. And so when I stopped blaming and stopped being in this really kind of vicious cycle of just like, here's the problem, or whatever that was. And I just really started to learn, what does it mean to feel like, well, I feel sad, like I feel unseen. And so the first step, the F, is to feel your feelings. And the way that I do this best is where do you feel it in your body? Very easy to get lost in a loop of blame, complain, victim, a whole lot of other mental stuff that's basically just your ego trying to distract you from actually releasing the energy in the body. But if you'll be, okay, where do you feel it? And sometimes that starts with make it up. If we're not really used to being embodied, you're going to have to make up some of this stuff. But as you do, you'll start to be aware of why you make up that and not that. And it will lead 100%, it will lead to you having an actual experience of, oh yeah, wow, I do feel this shame in my stomach, or like I feel like a pressure on my shoulders, like there's a weight here, like I feel this heaviness. So the first question as we move in any challenging situation is to feel, where do we feel it in the body, right? So at that time, I had just a lot of blocks in my heart chakra, my throat chakra, my soul, all my chakras, but definitely initially my throat and my heart. And so often it would just feel like this pain I can't even explain, just this dagger, this very deep ache that seemed to almost become a black hole into nothingness. And so number one, where do you feel it in the body? And then give it a color, give it a texture, and give it a movement. As you do this work more and more, it will be so clear that our emotions do have color, they do have texture, and they do have movement. So the more that we do this, the more that we can actually embrace and allow this energy to be what it is. A repressed experience that's not who we are. We're not our emotions. I think we all know that, right? We are the light, we are the love, we are this invisible being of loving that here is to hold us, listen to us, and truly heal us over time. So we're not these feelings. So it helps us start to relate to them more as small children, more as a temporary experience, so we can love and let them go and not identify ourselves with, I am sad, I am angry. Well, that is a helpful process, but it's actually never the truth, right? It really is just a very temporary experience of sadness or of anger. And so that's really the first step. How do we really just allow that feeling so fully that we can be aware of, oh, it's like a stabbing blue, like hard, sharp experience in my heart that's like pulling all the energy out. Or when I'm angry, often I experience it as like red daggers. It's like there's dark, like sharp energy going out my eyes. I could go on with all different physiological experiences, but it's really up to you. And make it up. Make it up initially before it really starts to feel like it works. But and it's not really that important about any of this being accurate metaphysically. What is important is that even in that process of going, like where am I feeling it? What color does it? Like, we do need to get in our body. Like, we can't be up in our head and really feel like texture, movement, color. Like, it will get us in our body and it will get us connected, even if we're, regardless of the answer to those questions, questioning, being open to what those answers might be, gets us in our body. Second, embrace our feelings. So what I did back then and what I still do whenever I've got an emotional challenge, and this is obviously what how I support clients for the most part, is then really bringing in the loving, because we are not our emotions. We are not even these human beings, right? We are the love. We are this divine clear white light that's been given to this human to hold us, to listen to us, to love us. And so in that embrace your feeling, you're stepping back from yourself and you're really acknowledging, like, I accept this. Yeah, I probably spend most of my day not wanting to feel sadness, not wanting to be aware of anything except the joy and the light in my life. But at least in this moment, I embrace you, little sad, shame, whatever it is, I'm here for you. And there are specific words and phrases I give in the 4-step guide. But just, I see you, I hear you, I love you. It's just a mantra that goes so far in so many different situations, but just really, connecting with whatever's going on in your physical body and just saying, I hear you, I see you, I love you, I have so much time and space for you, right? There's so much that can be clear just with that simple sentiment. And I will say that often, because I do this clearing so often, those first 2 steps can do everything, right? They're not going to address source wounds, but anything that's come up recently, they'll just continue to keep us clear. So those, just being aware of, like, well, what do we feel? I feel sad. Oh yeah, it's blue, it's painful. Oh, and okay, I'm going to completely embrace it. I'm going to love it, let it be here. Good. So often it just pops through, it's done, it's clear. However, if there is a source wound attached to it, a childhood or a deeper past life karmic wound attached to this feeling, there is a greater opportunity here. So that is where we would go to step 3, just to express our feelings. And I guess the best advice I can give anyone for this is just not to think and just to keep writing, right? So I can't tell you some of the wild things that I have had expressed out of my shame, my sadness, my anger, things that I would have bet a lot of money I don't believe and are not in here, right? But in just not thinking about it and almost just letting that raw energy, that raw emotion speak. I'll never, one of the big turning points as I was grieving my mum's passing, which was actually in the dealing with my painful crush on this guy that I worked with, was that I would feel like, oh, I'm so I feel so unseen. I feel so unloved. I'm nobody. I'm not important. Like I just this energy of feeling so unseen and so unloved. And all of a sudden I would start to, as I was writing this out, I would get flashes of childhood. So very quickly I would start to see little Zoe, you know, just after her mom had passed, or I would see little Zoe trying to get love from my stepdad. I never tried to do this, but as I so abundantly gave my feelings a voice, visions of source wounds just popped in, and they were so clear that I just couldn't deny that these were clearly connected. So I began a process of very easily just from moving to giving my feelings a voice, I would just give little Zoe a voice. And some of the things that I was able to let her say, well, the one that I want to share with you right now is that, you know, I'll never love again. I'm never going to survive being left again, right? I'm bringing this up because I'm actually sharing this in a book that I'm writing right now about pet grief. But that moment will forever have changed my life. And I would have bet so much money that I don't believe that I'm never going to love again because I'm afraid of being left again. But as I was in the depths of this pain of not being loved by this colleague, and then little Zoe was again like in those moments of like, my mom's not here, really feeling that, you know, it came out my pen like, no, I'm never going to love ever again. I'm not going to survive this again. And all of a sudden it's like my whole world shifted in that moment. I could see that it was true, and I could honor that and have so much compassion for that. And so this for me really is the value of working with emotions in clearing, because I not only experience, but I just believe that emotions are the easiest backdoor into the unconscious. I love mindset work. I think it's great and positive. But if you're looking to shift an emotion clearly with mindset work, in my experience, you're going to be very limited because your conscious mind is limited to your conscious mind. And our blind spots, the things that we're doing that we really fucking don't want to be doing, like falling in love with men that don't love us, never, like, they're going to be stuck in the emotion. So having the courage to feel that emotion and really allow that experience to come present to lead us to those big chunky awarenesses of like, oh wow, yeah, that's in there. And as soon as we can really just love that, honor that, aware, like our whole, I'd be interested to know spiritually, right? If our DNA doesn't start rewriting itself in those really key moments when we can really see, I was like, oh, that's a commitment, that's a promise that I made that I'm done with. I let go of that completely. So that's the third step, to really express and just be aware of, just let out whatever is in there. And usually in this process, there comes a bit of a turning point. Either we find ourselves just feeling a little still, or some energy lifts, but we're generally going to be aware of that part inside of me has said all that it needs to say, at least for right now. So that's the FEE onto L, to love our feelings. And so there are so many different ways to do this. And healing is probably the least linear process on the planet. So it's quite hard to put it in a linear process. So this is a limited view of this, but it's, I believe, still helpful. So just really, again, being aware that we are this loving, right? And being aware of how can we just bring in so much loving to this feeling inside, to this inner child, to this little part of us. And for me, if you're not really yet really used to relating to yourself in this kind of relational way, the best way to love yourself is to ask, what do you need? Right? So if it's my heart that's hurting, or if it's little Zoe's missing her mom, right? I can ask this human part of myself, what do you need? And then again, I let that write, right? And I let it write just as freely, stream of consciousness, as I did before. So it's okay if it doesn't make sense what comes up, right? obviously many times when I was with little Zoe, you know, what do you need to say? I need my mum back, right? And I needed to be able to say that. And I needed to also be able to now step into the spiritual reality where it's like, hey, mum is here. Like if I close my eyes and call for her, she's more abundantly present than she ever has been. And that's really what this process opened me up to, like really the oneness, the loving that all is present here and now. But often until we've allowed ourselves to have our human pains, it's hard to springboard into that true clarity of our spirit, right? It's like little Zoe needed to go, this is unfair. I don't like this. This is painful, in order to go, okay, now I'm ready. Like I need my mom. And so for that next year that passed following this experience, whenever I would have a pain, I would give it a voice. And usually there would be some little Zoe just going, no, I still need my mom. I still want my mom. And again, I used my divine imagination to let little Zoe run up to mom, to jump into her arms, and to have that experience, to really repattern, to give myself the experience that I want. And now I think of my mom probably multiple times a day. You know, for 2 decades, I worked so hard not to ever think about her. And she was a very distant. I would always divert conversations around it. I avoided it. Now, you know, I talk often about her with my husband. She taught me everything I know about flowers. Flowers is now one of my number one things. Like I'm always thinking about her and which flowers she taught me about and where they were in my garden and in our garden back then. There are just so many parts of her that are now in my life. And this is the power of this beautiful experience, is that only through our emotions do we find what it is that we needed back then. And we really do have an opportunity to give us that loving, that compassion. And we have a divine imagination that is completely unlimited. This is beyond the scope of what we're talking about here. But as we really start to expand into our powers of divine imagination, oh my Lord, we can heal. Well, we can heal everything. I believe with enough time and patience and loving, whether or not that's little Zoe needs a hug from her mom, or I need to be told I'm worthwhile, I'm lovable, or maybe, you know, our back needs a green, blue energy. Our bodies are so wise. We know what it is that we need. So as we're allowed to feel what we feel, and someone listens, someone loves, that's us. We're here to listen and love. And we're okay, what do you need? And we allow that yearning, that request to be so clear, we can give it to ourselves very abundantly. And in doing that, things shift. You know, parts of us that are stuck in, well, I need my love from men that will finally tell me that I'm good enough. It's like, no, I'm here to pick you up, little Zoe. You're good enough. I love you. Like I am the love. I am rewiring from a part of my psyche that's diverting and diffusing all my energy out in the world, trying to get my love out there, which it doesn't exist. All love comes from within. And when we reclaim it back to within us, oh my Lord, dysfunctional patterns shift. I still can't explain this, but within a couple of weeks, I never purged again. Bulimia just it had done its purpose. It had been a wonderful friend for many years. It helped me feel safe and comfort and sweet when I needed it. But when I was starting to get my own love and my own sweetness, I didn't need it anymore. And so it fell away very gracefully. And I'm so grateful for that. And in terms of this unrequited love, I did start dating my now husband, you know, within a matter of months. And you know, I hope everyone can say this and mean this, but I married to the best man on the planet, definitely the best man on the planet from me, best human. and I'm just so grateful for all the heartaches, for all the juice in my childhood, because it's really taught me how to fall in love with myself, how to get to know myself, and how to not only be attentive to myself, but really how to heal myself, how to like, oh, you're sad, you're alone. Okay, well, I can listen to you. I'm with you. I love you. And this doesn't substitute for being heard and loved by another. We're wired to connect. We need to connect. And we're also here to fall in love with ourselves. We're also here to connect so fully with the divine within. So I believe that both are so incredibly important. And so these 4 steps really just have become a profound guide for me to move from I'm stuck, I'm in some kind of emotional challenge, or a mental challenge, which if you're in a mental challenge, it's just there are emotions there that you haven't yet identified. Any challenge just means that there is some part of life that you're not completely in flow with, and there is a beautiful opportunity for you to unpack that. But what I've found over the years is that we can have this information and we can know the truth about healing and we can know how powerful loving is. But when our shit hits the fan and when we're in a shit storm, when we're in a shame storm, it can actually be really hard to do something loving for ourselves. It's like, no, I just want to watch Netflix. No, I just want to do something self-destructive, right? So just having these 4 simple steps so that I don't have to think or really remember anything. It's kind of just like very easy. Okay, feel. Okay, I can like, okay, where do I feel it in my body? And then go through the process, because when we are challenged, it's usually because we're not really seeing cleanly and clearly. You know, our ego is kind of in the front seat and we're kind of stuck in some level of judgment, some level of confusion. And so having a clear pathway back to loving, back to being able to see this life spiritually, is very important. I will also say, and I do have this at the end of my guide, that self-forgiveness is a massive part of this. As we are aware of these parts that are needing things, often these big judgments of, wow, I'm unlovable, no, I don't matter, whatever it is, often are so profoundly to the front of our consciousness. So just doing a little bit of forgiveness, forgiving ourselves for ever buying into that we're anything less than loving, just is a really wonderful way to rewire. And of course, beyond the scope of what we're diving into here, but there is a little bit of that at the back of my guide, just because when we're in this loving, connected place of healing, that statement really does help us rewire. And I guess I would just conclude or complete in some way, again, with this idea of we don't need to give a mum a guidebook for how to love our child. And actually, there's an incredible Thich Nhat Hanh quote that I will absolutely butcher, but it's something like, you know, when you have an anxiety, when you have a sadness, like pick them up as they're your beautiful child, your baby. If we were able to really begin to shift in our life, in our everyday challenges, right? It's like, I don't believe that often we ever really need to dive back into the adversity of our childhood or really try and unpack our life. God, the universe, whatever word we'd put on it, are giving us perfect opportunities to release and balance by the simple, ordinary challenges we find ourselves day to day. So wherever we're not okay, wherever we feel our peace is disturbed, that is the exact point where God's going, hey, you're out of alignment here. Will you have the courage just to be with yourself, just to know that you are the mum, right? You are the Holy Spirit. You are a being of divine loving. So be aware that you are that, and have the courage to be aware of, like, oh, how does your human feel? I'm in pain. And the other quick guide I will say, or just tip I will say, is because none of us have the luxury just to feel our feelings. we're responsible for so many things. We're juggling so many things. But whenever something is big, irrational, and cyclical, I really pay attention. So obviously, if an emotion's really big, like I'm really sad or I'm really angry, like, yeah, pay attention to that. If it's irrational, really pay attention to that one, right? Sometimes I don't know, if it's something very insignificant goes on, maybe my mother-in-law says something to me, very, but the reaction I have is like, that's not a right. It's like clearly the reaction going on in my body is irrational compared to actually what's going on. And if it's cyclical, if it's repeating, right, often the same kind of experience will keep coming up until we address it. So if we're aware of like, a feeling of aloneness or whatever it is, if that same energy keeps showing up in different areas of your life over different days, that's a really great opportunity to go, hey, there's something here. Can I have the courage to be with it, to really embrace it, to listen to it, allow it to express, and then bring in that source energy, that loving, that life force that it needs, so that that the light can do what it does best, which is just clean, clear, balance, heal, restore back to light, truly complete and clear. So trust yourself, trust that you are this big mom, you are this big whole spirit, you are a being of divine loving. And so be as brave and courageous as you possibly can in trusting your own heart. And often that means having the courage to be aware of, yeah, alongside who you are as divine light, is you have a human who is never going to be perfect and who is always going to do stupid things and who is always going to get hurt feelings while ever you're still living and breathing on this planet. So just have a little more courage to show up for your human when they're having a tough time. Of course, I do my best to lift into a positive intention, just lift out of it as much as I can. But if it's big, if it's irrational, if it's cyclical, I'm like, oh, there's something here. Okay, maybe I can clear a source wound here and really like free up some energy within. So can I have the courage to really pick up my baby, pick up my human, and really use my loving to heal her, clear her, and I believe rewire our DNA. I hope that's so helpful. I hope you all pick that up and play with that. It's simple, but it's not easy, right? Like even just having the courage to feel our sadness or our anger some days is like moving a mountain. So it's simple, not easy, but I really, really hope that helps.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Zoe. And I can so relate some parts of this journey, and learning to love has been one of my lessons in my spiritual curriculum for sure. So that part really resonated. And I love that you help people to, as you say, remembering the love that already is within.
Amen.
Yeah, beautiful work. And well, thank you for sharing all this and sharing all the work that you do in the world.
Thank you.
So, and there is also the opportunity for those who want to dive even deeper, because you offer this precious gift. So, can you just remind people what they can get from you as well?
Yeah, so it is just a simple 4-step healing guide. It really walks you through different examples and just really holds your hand and walks you through those 4 steps that I just discussed. It does have some advanced healing techniques at the end of it. But I love it because it is just a simple guide that someone can have, that when we do get really out of balance and we kind of want to turn to something dysfunctional, it's actually very simple and a beautiful way to hold your hand and guide you through this process. So it's available in PDF and also with an online link, but it's yours to then have access to whenever you need it.
Wow, thank you so much for offering that. You will find the link in the show notes, so check that out. And once again, thank you, Dr. Zoe. Lovely to have you here, and keep shining your beautiful light and sharing your gifts.
Thank you so much, Katja. Thank you so much for having me. Love to everyone.
And thank you for tuning in. And if this resonated with you, please leave us a comment. We'd love to check in. What was your biggest takeaway? And if there is somebody in your life that might benefit from this, feel free to share and invite them to watch this too. So thank you. I'm sending you lots of light and love. Bye for now.